Welcome back, boys and girls. We are just now getting time to get into some biots and quills, different body materials that we can use to create a different effect. And what we're looking at here is just a version of a stonefly that I put together here, just to try to show you, making this a little bit bigger than typical, but just to show you how some of the spacing can work here. You can really see, good segmentation on here, and that is because of what we're using on this body is goose biots. Typically, we're just gonna, what I do anyway, using these for tails, antennas, things like that. I don't get into the quill bodies too much. And we'll go over some of those pros and cons as we go through the series here. I'm going to have probably 2 or 3 different bugs that we're going to show you. What we're doing today are biots. Biots, which come in, every conceivable color out there. As far as ingredients go, on the head, this one's pumpkin pie is what this is, which is like almond joy and autumn put together. It's a 3mm standard bead. This is straight shank hook, which is Firehole 718. My favorites. This is size 14. I normally would tie this on a 16, but you can tell I'm tying this a little bit short, just so I can kind of match the bugs that the bugs I'm gonna catch fish with. The other thing we have here is these River Road. These are those wing pads that I typically put on my stoneflies. This little piece that you see up here. And for the body and tails, this is goose biots, kind of a yellow sulfur color. These are the ginger ones. They do get a little bit darker, when they get wet, but goose biots there. And for our examples are, an olive turkey biot. Thread we're using, Semperfly. This is their olive. What we're using today are these ginger ones. And to show you a little difference, these sulfur ones are like a bright orange. When you look at these side by side, they don't look, or they do look, quite different. You can't really tell it too much on a bug. If you look at it, which one is the sulfur, which one is the ginger, mostly because, when we're looking at these things, what we're using on the ginger biot are the insides of these fibers. Okay, see how this is all spread out like that? Essentially, when you take a single biot off of there and you wrap it around something round, on the edges of these little biots, it'll flare the little fibers that are in there, and that's how we're achieving this segmented look here. They are raised, and it's just a matter of the orientation that they're tied on the hook, whether you tie them tips out or tips into the hook, or pointing away from the bead into the bead, if you want to think of it that way. So what we're going to do here is go through a couple different examples, because besides goose biots, we also have turkey biots that we use. I tend to use these more for bodies if I do want that type of segmentation, just because they're bigger. When we look at the size of these biots, here's a turkey biot, here's a goose biot. Okay, a lot smaller, a lot thicker on the turkey, but most important thing, much longer. This is a size 14 hook that we're using here. It's a Firehole 718. I got a Firehole Autumn Almond Joy bead on the front. That's a 3mm tungsten. But this one is made entirely out of goose biots. So I got a couple different examples to show you. When we're looking at this, two different ways that you can tie this. Tied up a couple bodies, and you can see I used one biot to cover this whole bug. Okay, the same bug with a goose biot, I had to use 2 biots to get in there, and sometimes it makes the middle of your bug a little funky, but you can still see, you know, they're still going to have those raised ridges that are on there. That's what we're going to do with this pattern here today. But another angle that, you know, we're going to look at it is this type of a look. If you tie it tips in towards the bead and wrap it, the way that you would stagger the wraps, you're basically putting this little ridge, instead of putting it on the high side of the wrap as you're going around, okay, this one puts it on the bottom, this one puts it on the bottom, this one puts it on the top, so that you can cover it up. You know, and you can still see that good segmentation on that. I have some, you know, UV product on there. The downside of using these biots, they are delicate. So I'll put some bloopers in here, or just show you how many times or how many biots I've broken just to make a half a dozen bugs here. And yeah, it gets me a pain in the ass. So we're gonna go through other options. I know a lot of that is technique. I don't do this very often, but you know, my biots might be old too, so it's hard to say. I have so many different colors. So we'll look at some pros and cons as we're going through this, but let's jump into our first bug here. I think we're just going to be using the same type of bug as we go through the series, just so you can see the different looks, and at the end, you know, we'll have a test. If you failed, and so be it. Fish are still gonna eat them, guys. That's the thing. We got some new videos coming up. Starting to get back out on the water here. Starting to get healthy again. All right, we're just gonna lay that on there. I typically like to go with this type of a bug. I'm gonna be tying these a little bit short, so I don't really need to go very deep into the bend there, but I do like to have those tails pointing down. Now, when you're tying on biot tails, that's probably the more common usage for biots. You want to make sure that your tails are splayed like this. And I will lay these over the hook and tie them in at the same time. Just make sure that you're, oops, just kick that whole thing off of there. Let's try that again. I just push it down over the hook like this. I get the length that I want, and then I'll pinch it right to the hook, put 2 loose wraps on it, and then pull it straight down, and you can see that what we're gonna get. That's splaying that we want here. Okay. And the further you go back, the more they're gonna splay out like that. Now, just like any body material, when you're trying to get you know, realistic looking bug here. Excuse my fingers. Trying to secure that on the right side of the hook there. Trim off this excess. But it's important to make sure that your body is consistent. Because whenever you're wrapping material onto the hook, you want that underbody to be perfect. So we'll do that. I'm going to bring this back to the tail here. And we're going to get our first biot. Now, like I said, you want to tie it tips in, like towards the hook, like this. You're going to get a different look than if you tie it tips out to where it's pointing away. That's what I'm going to be doing here with this biot. I try to tie it in on the side because there's going to be a little bit of a fold. You know, when you fold that first wrap over, and you kind of want to be able to control it a little bit, maybe hide it, so to speak. Okay. Gonna get here, and I try to do it from my side of the hook so that I can see where those wraps are going to be laying perfectly. Now, the tough thing is when you get to the end of the biot, you can see how many wraps I got there. It wasn't very many. Like I said, this is size 14 hook. So it is longer than what I would normally tie on here. Learning how to add this second biot takes just a little bit of practice. Kind of have to overlay it on the other one and just taper it in the right way. That down, build that up just a touch. You can see here where the last wrap is. I want to tie it in. See, we only got 3 little segmentations out of that. I'm going to tie in the second biot. Try to tie it right up against that last one. Keep that body consistent. This little fold. Sometimes it'll leave a little gap. Sometimes you catch it just right. You'd never know it was there. Try to get one more out of that. I don't think I'm gonna get it. Even when you're wrapping these on here, you gotta be cautious. They'll pop, break. Excuse my hands. Okay, and we're just going to bind it. That one didn't turn out too bad. I can see a little bit of string in there on that first wrap, but okay, awesome. I'm going to take this back to here anyway, so I'm not really worried about what's underneath there. You can see those little ridges in there. Looks just like a bug. That's kind of the idea. All right, now for this pattern, I'm gonna put in, oops, or try to put in other biots on the back here for the underwings. You want to try to make sure that they are on top of the hook. I'll show you the finished X, which is kind of what I try to create on the top. That way, before you get your angle set, create an X right at the base of the bead. And you notice that I did not put any type of dubbing on here. I have these right along the back. If you happen to wrap the dubbing first, then put the wings on, when you tighten it down, they'll start to flare up a little bit. And I wanted this pattern to be a little more flat. Okay, right along the back like that. Put a couple wraps in front of that. Okay. Now the dubbing I have here is just some squirrel hair. This is kind of been my color recently. I made this for a couple bugs. It's like a brown mustard color. And yeah, for like my October caddis and things like that, it's gonna be a good color here. So next we're just gonna wrap that back a little bit, because what we're gonna put in front here is one of these wing pads. You've seen me use them before. Something different I've been doing here is, you know, coloring them a certain way to create some patterns on the back. We just tie that on right in front of the bead there. Cut off that excess. Just a very small noodle in the front here, just to kind of butt up against that. Where that bead is tied off, cover up our mess. Cover up some of that wing to give it a little bit better bugginess. Okay guys, there you go. Golden stonefly. You can see the little different pattern that I did here on there, but that's just aesthetic. The neat thing is, you know, the segmentation that we're getting on here. So we're gonna tie the same bug next week, similar bug next week. I'm gonna change a couple different things, but yeah, what we're gonna end up using are some peacock curls. So tune into that, see how you like it, go fish it. I tied this, obviously you can see, very short, probably about a size 16. I didn't have any size 16 hooks in this this one, so tie it up. You wanna make it buggy, make it buggy. Stoneflies aren't very buggy, but they certainly have legs. And that squirrel hair does a pretty good job of that. Okay guys, there you go, golden stonefly. Enjoy. We'll see you in a week.